Okay, good morning. Uh, yeah, so as it was told yesterday, this last chapter on security protocols, so I will be handling, right? Okay, so let us start. Now, so I think this is the first time you are hearing about security. Okay, so far we have not talked about security, right? And but you might have experienced it. Okay, so let us consider. So what are the security threats, right? So in this topic we will be studying. One second. Ashish, good morning. So Vadvi sir will be engaging now. So he has started Cisco now because Cisco is taking some time. We just wait. Okay. Okay. Right. Right. Yeah. So that's what. That's what. So he'll take now. Right. Okay. Right. Hello. Yeah. See, what are security threats, what are security requirements, and what are countermeasures? Okay. So now, so these are, I think, these are the common terms for you. Eavesdropping. So you must have heard about. So man in the middle. Okay, man in the middle, client server. Okay. So eavesdropping is something. So when A and B. Okay, we normally consider it as A as Alice and B as Bob. So when Alice and Bob are communicating, so this eavesdropper, what he will be doing is he will be just listening to their ongoing communication, right? So he will be listening to the ongoing communication. Okay. So then later he can attack, but initially he will be just listening to the ongoing communication. So because he is an unauthorized user, because A and B are the two communicating parties, this eavesdropper, okay, eavesdropper we normally call it as sturdy, right? Alice and Bob are the authenticated communicators, whereas this sturdy is an eavesdropper. So he is listening to the ongoing communication, so without any authorization. Okay, okay. So that is one type of attack. So then the next type of attack is man in the middle attack. Man in the middle attack. So what happens when A and B are communicating? Okay, so actually, so A and B they feel as if they are communicating with each other, but so there is a middleman in between. So A is communicating with the middleman, right? And the middleman is in turn communicating with B. So similarly, B feels he is as if he is communicating with A, but rather, so B is communicating with the middleman, and in turn, middleman is communicating with A. So whatever the communication that is taking place between A and B, it is all exposed to this middleman, right? So A and B are under the impression that they are directly communicating with each other, but the in fact, so the thing is, so they are communicating through this middleman, right? So then the next type of threat is so client server imposters. So client and server imposters in the sense, so it is a sort of impersonation, right? So whenever, see, assume that you have a server, so client, okay, unauthorized client, right? So suppose A is an authorized person, some attacker, so impersonating himself as A, right? So he is posing himself, okay? So the attacker, he is posing himself as A, right? So that is what is imposter attack. So similarly, the server also, okay? So server imposting in a sense, so it is a fake server, okay? So clients are authorized, but so they are made to communicate with some unauthorized server, okay? Server is imposting, okay? Server is imposting. Now this denial of service attack, okay? So server actually it is,
Excuse me, sir.
yes, tell me.
Sir, is the meeting on record?
Yeah, I had started recording it now. Yes, it is recording. Yes,
Okay, thank you, sir.
okay. Yeah. So this denial of service attack, it is in the sense, now what happens? See, now you have a server and you have several authorized clients. Okay. So these authorized clients are supposed to get service from this server, are supposed to get service from the server. But what may happen is, so an attacker may uh, send several requests to the server. Okay, he may send hundreds of requests to the server, so that the server is kept busy in meeting the requests from that attacker only. So now what happens, the other authorized clients, so they will be denied the service, because always they just get the message the server is busy, because server is kept busy in meeting the request from the attacker. Okay, so that's what is denial of service attack. Okay, so then these things you know it, so viruses, worms and malicious code. Okay, so these are very common, because now what happens, so whenever you get some mail or something. So if you are asked to click on a particular link, so if you click on a particular link, so then some malicious code may get executed, and it may in turn insert a worm into your system. Okay, virus, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Okay, so that's what. So these are all possible. Okay, these are all possible threats. Okay, so then this network. So now to meet these. Okay, so in order to solve these things, so what are the possible solutions? Okay, how do we overcome these? How do we overcome these? Now, first thing is, so to avoid this eavesdropping, so what is we call it as privacy. Privacy is required, or privacy is also called as confidentiality. Okay, so confidentiality means what? Confidentiality is a requirement. So wherein, so this eavesdropping sort of attacks can be avoided. Okay, that means whenever A is communicating with B, right? So whatever A communicates with B, so that should be kept confidential. That should be kept confidential. Even if attacker gets the message, but that message should not be a meaningful message to the attacker. So that is why. So here we use what is called as encryption. So whenever A is sending to B message, any message, right? So A will be sending the encrypted message using some key, right? So now B also knows the key. So using that key, so B will be decrypting it. But the attacker in between, though he gets the message, so but that message will be in the encrypted form. So that doesn't mean anything to him. Okay. So such such a thing is required from any security solution. So that is called as privacy. That is privacy, or you can even call it as confidentiality. And then integrity. So this integrity in the sense, what happens whenever A is sending some message to B, so B should get the original message. So whatever A has sent, the same thing should be received by B. Okay, so it may so happen that suppose we have a man in the middle. Okay, what he does, so he receives the message from A and he modifies it. Okay, he modifies it and sends it to B. Okay, and he sends it to B. Now what B receives is a modified message. Okay, it's a modified message. So then we can say that integrity is compromised. Okay, so that should not happen. Okay, so integrity is one of the messages, one of the requirements of any security solution. Okay, integrity in the sense what? So the original message should reach the receiver. Okay, not the modified one. So that means it should not be possible for anybody to modify the message in between, right? So then authentication, so it is two-way authentication in the sense, so whenever the sender is sending some message to the receiver, so the sender should authenticate B, okay, receiver, okay. Similarly, whenever the receiver has received some message from the sender, so the receiver should be able to authenticate the sender, okay. So A before sending any message to B, it should verify that it is sending to B only. Similarly, whenever B receives the message, so should be able to verify that the message has come from A only. Okay, so that's what is authentication. Then non-repudiation. So this repudiation is a sort of attack in the sense. Now suppose A has sent a message to B. A has sent a message to B, but later on A is denying it. A is denying. It says, I have not sent any such message. Right? So that is denial. The denial from sender side. Or even the receiver also. A has actually sent a message to B, but so B is denying it. B is denying it. No, I have not received any such message. Okay. So that means, so what you need, so such thing should, that is called as repudiation. Okay, so sender repudiation or receiver repudiation. So denial from either the sender side or from the receiver side. So there should be a security solution should provide a mechanism wherein such things should be avoided. Okay, there should be some proof saying that no, actually you have sent this message, or to the receiver. So receiver should no, you have actually received the message. So there should be some proof indicating that neither the sender nor the receiver will deny it. Okay, then this availability, it is a solution for this denial of service attack. That means authorized clients should be able to get the service from the server. Okay, always the service should be available for the authorized clients. Okay, so that is availability. So these are all the security requirements. So security requirements in the sense, suppose if you are developing any security solution, okay, all these requirements should be met. All these requirements should be met. Okay. Now, how these requirements, so you are going to meet, so that is by using the different techniques that are mentioned in the countermeasures, right? So we will see them one by one later, right? Now you just see the same things are explained here. So privacy, the information should be readable only by the intended recipient. Okay, unauthorized user should not be able to read that message because the message will be in the encrypted form. So this privacy is also called as confidentiality. Okay. So then integrity, the recipient can confirm that the message has not been altered during the transmission. Okay. So nobody should be able to modify the message. So during the transmission. Okay. So then authentication is, so verification of sender and receiver. Okay. Then non-repudiation is, so neither the sender nor the receiver can deny, so having sent the message or having received the message. Then availability, so it is the service from the server should be always available to the authorized clients. Now this eavesdropping, so how actually it happens, you just see. Now the client is communicating with the server. So now server is responding. Now there is ongoing communication. So but here our eavesdropper, he is listening. He is simply listening. So to the ongoing communication. Okay. Initially he is a passive attacker. So passive attacker in the sense what? So he is initially passive. He is not going to, what you can say, he is not going to block the message or he is not going to modify the message. So he just simply, so he allows the communication to take place, but he simply listens to the ongoing communication. Okay. So initially here. So later on what he can do, so whatever messages he has collected, so he can just do some replay attack. So he can retransmit the same messages to this server. Okay. So for example, this client, assume that, so client has sent a request to transfer some money. Okay, assume that this is a banking server. Okay, so client has requested to transfer some money to this particular account. Okay, so that message is captured by the eavesdropper. So later on he replays the same message, right? So then another transaction may be done by this banking server. So that should not happen. Okay. So then this is client imposter. So client, so it is not an authorized client, it is impersonation. Okay. So this is posing itself, the client is posing itself to be an authorized client. Okay. And but it is availing the services from the authorized server, right? So the whatever the useful information, so banking account details, personal database records. Okay. So this is all possible by using IP spoofing. Okay. Putting some wrong IP address, okay, into the packets. That's what is IP spoofing. Okay. So this is an attack on privacy and authentication. Okay. Now this is denial of service attacker. So here we have an attacker. Here it is an authorized server. So this attacker so initiates several requests, hundreds of requests to the server, so that the server is kept busy in meeting these requests. So whenever an authorized client requests a service from the server, so that legitimate client will be denied. Okay. So this results in denial of service to the legitimate clients. Okay. So this is an attack on availability. That means the service is not available for the authorized client. Okay. So this is server imposting. Okay, so this is a fake server. Okay, so it is just posing itself to be what you can say the authorized server. Okay, authorized server. So you might have heard about this phishing attack and all, right? So they just okay, so they are posing themselves to be legitimate servers, but they are actually fake servers. Fake servers. Okay, so the server, the imposter impersonates a legitimate server. So to gain sensitive information from the client. If the client believes that he is speaking to an authorized server, so he may send all his personal details to the this server. So which this server may, so this imposter may collect it and he may attack it later. Okay. So this type of attack, it is an attack on privacy, authentication, and non-repudiation. Okay, it is these are the attacks. So this is man in the middle attack, as we said. So client and server, they feel as if they are communicating in between them, but instead they are communicating. So client is communicating with this middleman, then this middleman is sending it to server. So he may modify it. Okay. So whatever server sends, so it is first received by the middleman. So he may modify it, he may not modify it. So then it is sending to client. So this client and server, so they feel as if they are communicating directly, but they are communicating through this middleman. So now what are the possible attacks here? Integrity. It is an attack on integrity because the middleman is modifying the message, and authentication. It is an attack on authentication also, right? So this is malicious code. Okay, what happens now? Now this server sends some message to you, okay, and it is asking you to click on a particular link. It is a click, it may be an attachment or it may be an email link or something. Okay, if you open the attack, so open the attachment, so it may some malicious code may get executed, and then what happens? So it may collect some useful information from your system, right? So a client becomes infected with a malicious code, either through a link that is sent through email or through an attachment. Okay. So the virus may get introduced. So it is a code that is executed in it inserts into other programs, right? So other programs they become unoperational. Okay, and it means so this is worm. Okay, worm is what? It is a code that install copies itself to the entire machine. So the machine, your machine becomes slow. Okay, so there are many variations of the malicious code. So this is all possible because whenever you, because the server itself is a fake server. Okay, so you have got an email from a fake server. So when you open any attachment or click on any link that is sent by this fake server, so this malicious code may get executed, and the virus or a worm or anything, so it gets installed in your machine. Okay, and it may be able to collect the useful information from your machine, and it may deliver it to the server, fake server. Okay, so this is an attack on privacy, integrity, and availability. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me. Okay, so far any doubts? Yes, any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Now, so what are the possible ways in which so you can counter these things? Okay. So for secure communication between client and server, so what are the possible countermeasures? So one is you can use for confidentiality, you can use encryption. Okay. So whenever A is sending some message to B, so the message should be encrypted. Okay, it should be always encrypted using some key, Okay, this is one countermeasure. Another one is using checksum and hashes. So for what you can say, for integrity, in order to ensure that the message is not modified midway. Okay, so during the transmission, okay, the message is not modified during the transmission. So what you can do is, right, and if at all the message is modified, the receiver will come to know that the message, it is not the original message, but instead it is a modified message. Okay, so that can be, so that attack on integrity, so the attack on integrity can be achieved by using so cryptographic checksums and hashing. Okay, using hashing. So the attack on confidentiality can be what you can say countermeasured so can be countered by encryption, right? So attack on what you can say client imposting or server imposting, so can be achieved, can be countered by authentication, okay, proper authentication mechanism, okay, and digital signature. So digital signature is, so every message that is sent, so it bears the signature, so digital signature of the sender, okay. So signature in the sense it is a signing by using a private key of the sender, okay. So we will see them. Okay, so the other, okay, these are the techniques with respect to the message. Okay, at the border, okay, at the border in the sense, suppose now assume that our college is there. Okay, so there is one point so wherein the messages go out of our college and the message this they enter into our college. So that is what is called as a border, right? So it is normally a router. Okay, router in the sense, so whenever any message that goes out of our college, it should go through that router. Any message that is coming into, okay, any, it may be any web page or anything, okay, any thing that is coming into our college, it should come through a particular router only, okay. So that router acts as a border, that is a border, okay, you can say a gateway, you can say, right? Now, so you should secure it, you should always secure it. So how do we secure it? By installing a proper firewall in the router itself, right? So firewall is nothing but it is a packet filter, right? So what that firewall does is every incoming packet, it is opened and checked for some whether it meets all our requirements or not. So there are some, so it is a policy decision, right? So whether the incoming message is whether it meets all our policies or not, requirements or not. If it meets, so then it is allowed into the network. It is allowed into our network. Otherwise, it is blocked, right? So even the packets that are going out, okay, so they are every packet is filtered, right? If it is going to the authorized destination, so then only it is allowed, otherwise the packet is blocked, okay. So that is firewall. Then virus checking, so anything, any code that is entering in or any code that is going out. So intrusion detection, right? So any attacker, okay, so suppose he has entered into the network, so that we should be able to identify, okay, identify that. So then authentication, access control. So all these can be incorporated at the border in the sense at especially at the router or a gateway. Yeah. So now what actually is this encryption? So cryptography normally we call it encrypting a text. Okay. The what you can say the science of encryption. So it is called as cryptography. So okay. Or you can say study of encryption, you can say study of encryption, so you can call it as a cryptography. So what is cryptography? So that is encryption and decryption, okay. So encryption is what? So given plain text, so this given plain text, okay, so it is converted, it is transformed, you can say. So transformation of the plain text message into encrypted message called as ciphertext, right? So this plain text, so this plain text, okay, so it is, you can say, if you put this message, if you put this message inside this box and lock it, okay, lock it. So then, so this itself becomes the encrypted text because no, without the key, nobody can open it. Nobody can open it. Okay, it is just a trivial way of telling this, right? So until and unless you have the key, so nobody is able to open it. So this box itself is delivered to the receiver. So the receiver will also be having this key. So he opens it and opens the message. Okay, the same thing. Okay, so this box, so the original message is transformed into okay, it is converted into this box and this box is delivered to the destination. So the receiver having the key, so he will be able to open it and read the message within. Okay, so that is called as, so putting a key here, putting the lock, it is encryption. Opening the lock, it is decryption, you can say. Okay, So recovery of the plain text from the ciphertext using proper key, that is decryption, So this entire process of encryption and decryption, so that is called as cipher, The ciphertext is what? The transformed plain text is called as ciphertext. The transformed plain text is called as ciphertext, right? And the process is called as encryption, okay? And the algorithm, okay? So that entire thing, it is called as cipher system. And this key, so the key that is used for encryption, so that is a secret key, which the sender and the receiver, only the sender and receiver will be knowing, having idea about the key, so nobody else knows about the key, okay? So let us see this. See now, so what actually are different types of transformation of the message, as you see. So these are substitution ciphers. Substitution in the sense, see, assume this is our original text. Okay, this is our original A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Okay. So what we do here in case of substitution cipher, map each letter or a numeral into another letter. So this is mapping. Okay, this is our mapping formula. So A is mapped to Z, B is mapped to Y, C is mapped to X, so D is mapped to W, like this. Okay, so this is how it is mapping. Okay, so this mapping, it is known to sender and receiver. So how each letters are mapped. Okay, so it is known to sender and receiver. Now, suppose sender wants to send a message security. Okay, sender wants to send a message security. So what he will do? He will use this mapping. So yes, what he has to do? So if for a sending yes, so it is actually decryption. So for sending yes, he sends H. Okay, so H is sent, right? In place of S, he sends H. So E. So E is what is that? One second. H. Yeah. So for sending E, so where is E? So E is, so for sending E, he sends V. Then for sending C, he sends X. So like this. So based on this mapping, what happens? So this is your original message, security. Instead of sending security, what the sender will send? He will transform it into HVX FIRGB. Okay. So if the attacker, okay, so during the transmission, if the attacker is able to get the message, so HVX FIRGB, so it means nothing to him. Okay, because he will not, until and unless he knows this, mapping, so he will not be able to extract any meaning out of it. Okay, so that is very, very impossible. Is it clear? Okay, so this is original message, plain text. So this plain text is transformed into ciphertext. At the receiving end, so again the receiver will also be having this mapping information. So he will reverse map it. So that is decryption. Okay, that is decryption. Is it clear? So this is called as substitution. Right? Now this substitution is, we can call it as, it is a sort of monoalphabetic substitution. So what actually is monoalphabetic substitution? Now every letter in the plain text is replaced by the same letter in the ciphertext. Okay, some letter in the ciphertext. Okay, now you just see, so E is mapped to V. So wherever E occurs in this plain text, it is always replaced by V. Yes or no? Okay, that's what is we call it as monoalphabetic substitution. Okay, that means every letter, okay, you can say the letter in the plain text, okay, it is always replaced by the same letter in the ciphertext wherever it occurs. Okay, suppose this E occurs many times in this plain text. So wherever it occurs, it is always replaced by V. Okay, now, so this monoalphabetic substitution, it is not that secure, because what happens, you just see here, so there is, if you just look into the histogram of frequency of occurrences of the letters in a given paragraph, English paragraph, which is the most frequently occurring letter? Can you just guess? In a given English paragraph, which is the most frequently occurring English letter? Yes? Which is the most frequently occurring letter? So can you just answer it? Hello? Are you there? Hello?
Yes, sir. Uh,
Which is the
yeah,
most,
you're audible, sir.
yes, which is the most frequently occurring letter in a given English paragraph? It is normally E, letter E. Okay, it's, see, if you just plot,
Yes,
if you
sir.
just plot a histogram, so which is a frequency of occurrences of letters, so you just observe that. So normally, so 12.5% of the times, so E occurs. Okay, so then it may be T, then A, like that. Okay, so there is a different, every letter will be having a different frequencies. Okay, so E is having the maximum frequency, then T, then A, so like that. Okay, so based on that frequency of occurrence histogram, so based on the idea of this histogram, because as you see here, now as I said, E is the most frequently occurring letter in a English. Now once you using substitution cipher, monoalphabetic substitution cipher, if you encrypt it, now this E is replaced by V here. Okay, but in the ciphertext now what happens? The occurrences of V will be more. Yes or no? Because wherever E occurs, it is always replaced by V. Okay, so in our paragraph, so E has more number of occurrences, but in the ciphertext, what happens? V will be having more number of occurrences. So the attacker, what he will do? So wherever V has occurred, so he will replace it by E because V is having more number of occurrences. Is it not? So that frequency pattern of the plain text, it is still maintained even in the ciphertext. Are you getting me? Yes or no? The frequency pattern of the plain text. What is that frequency pattern? In a given paragraph, E has a more number of occurrences. Okay, so like that. So different letters will have different frequencies. So that frequency pattern, it is still maintained even in the ciphertext also. Okay, so that the attacker can exploit and he will be able to extract the original message from it. Yes or no? Is it clear? Yes, please respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, fine. And one more thing, so there is something called as polyalphabetic substitution. Okay, so polyalphabetic substitution in the sense, so which makes, so even though it is, see, it depends. Now E, so initially here it is replaced by V. So wherever if some other place E occurs, it is replaced by some other letter in the ciphertext. So that is, so the same letter is replaced by different letters in the ciphertext. Okay, that is polyalphabetic substitution. In monoalphabetic substitution, what happens? A letter is replaced by the same letter in the ciphertext. Okay, suppose E is always replaced by V. Okay, so that is fixed. That is monoalphabetic substitution. In case of polyalphabetic substitution, what happens? The same letter is replaced by different letters. Okay, so in the ciphertext. So that is possible by using polyalphabetic substitution. So the example for that polyalphabetic substitution, so it is, you can say, uh, it is called by Wegener cipher it is. So Wegener cipher, okay. So that we will see later, Wegener cipher, right? And you must have heard about Caesar cipher, okay. So Caesar cipher, what it does? Caesar cipher, have you heard about that? Julius Caesar used to, he was the first person to, what you can say, use this encryption. Okay, his key was 3. Okay, so every letter, for every plain text letter, he used to add 3. Suppose if he wants to send message attack, Okay, ATTACK. So A is A plus 3. A plus 3 means what? Instead of sending A, he used to send D, because to A he adds 3. So then it means 1 plus 3, 4. So fourth letter, that is D, is sent. So T. So for sending T, he used to send, so T plus 3. T U V W. Okay, he used to send W. Okay, so like that. So this encryption technique that is used by Julius Caesar, so that is normally called as Caesar cipher. Caesar cipher. Okay. Yeah. So then, so that is one technique of encryption. It is substitution cipher. Okay. So the next technique is, so transposition cipher. So this transposition cipher. So here we are not replacing the letters, but we are just rearranging the order. Okay. So just as you might have solved the jumbles, so that normally come in the daily newspaper. Okay. You might have solved them. Okay. So the letters are rearranged. Okay, the letters are rearranged and you need to find out the original word. Okay, so rearranging the order of letters or numerals in a message using a particular rearrangement. Okay, so how the letters are rearranged, it is up to you. Now you just see here. So this security is your original message. Okay, so what is done is, now every two letters are exchanged. So SE is exchanged with ES. Okay, SE, instead of sending SE, so it is ES. Then CU is sent as UC. Okay, RI is sent as IR. Then TY is sent as YT. Okay, so now what happens if this message is sent? It is an encrypted message now. It is a transformed message, you can say. Transposed message, you can say. Right. Now, ESUCYRYT, if anybody sees at a first glance, it doesn't mean anything to them. It doesn't mean anything to them. Right. So, until and unless they know that, so because the receiver will be knowing it. So, receiver what he does? So, he will again interchange them. Every two letters he interchange. So, ES he has received, he makes it SE. So, UC has received, he makes it CU, like that. Okay. So, this is one technique of transposing. Okay, so this is called as transposition. This is called as transposition. So what we are doing, interchange the characters k with k plus 1. Okay, so every two letters, they are interchanged. They are interchanged. Okay, is it clear? So this is transposition cipher. So what we seen previously, it is substitution cipher. So wherein every letter in the plain text is replaced with some other letter in the cipher text. So here there is no replacement. Here it is just rearrangement. It is just rearrangement of the you can say the plain text. Okay, that results in a cipher text. Is it clear? Any doubts? Yes.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Now, this is what is our secret key cryptography. Now, this secret key cryptography, it is also called as symmetric key cryptography. Okay. So, why it is symmetric key cryptography? Because the sender and the receiver will be using the same key. Okay. So, here you just see, this is plain text. This is our plain text. So this plain text is encrypted. This plain text is encrypted using this key K. Okay. So this process is called as encryption. Okay. This itself says, so encryption of the plain text using the key K. Okay. So the output of this is ciphertext. Okay. So ciphertext C. So C is equal to EK of P. Okay. So plain text is encrypted using the key K. So that results in ciphertext. So this ciphertext is sent to the receiver. At the receiving end, so the process of decryption takes place. Process of decryption takes place. So this decryption process is applied, but the receiver also applies the same key. The key which is used for encryption, the same key is used for decryption. That is why it is called as symmetric key encryption. Okay, encryption key and decryption key, they are one and the same. Okay, that is why it is called as symmetric key encryption, and it is also called by name secret key encryption. Okay, so for decryption process, the same key is used, but the input is ciphertext here. Okay, input is ciphertext. Okay, so Now decryption of this ciphertext using this key K, so it results in the plain text. It results in the plain text. As you see here, EK of P, it generates ciphertext. So this ciphertext is applied. Okay, here it is actually C. So C is replaced by EK of P. Okay, so DK of EK of P. So decryption of encryption of plain text. Decryption of encryption of plain text. So that is plain text. Now if you just see here, right? So now decryption of encryption of plain text so will result in plain text. So that means what? So that means that itself shows encryption and decryption. So they are inversely proportional to each other. So they are inverses of each other. Okay. So they are as if they are multiplicative inverses. So this decryption and encryption, they are inverses. So they get cancelled and you get the plain text here. Is it clear? Yes. So the receiver decrypts C by applying the inverse mapping. Okay, so actually always this decryption is inverse of encryption. Okay, always decryption is inverse of encryption. Okay, so at the sending end for encryption, if you are adding 3 to the text, at the decryption end, what you will do, you will subtract 3 from it. Okay, so that's what it's always inverse of encryption. Now, what are the good qualities of any encryption system or a cipher? Okay, what are the good qualities? So, cipher. So, the algorithm that is used for encryption, should be easy to implement and deploy on a large scale. See, one thing you remember. So, now suppose you are using some encryption technique. Okay, so the algorithm, it is not kept secret always. Okay, algorithm is you are using some standard algorithm which is known to everybody. But what should be kept secret is, it is the key that is used, it should be kept secret. Algorithm need not be kept secret because algorithm, it is known to everybody. The standard algorithm will be used always. Okay, so it is so there is no point in keeping algorithm secret. It is the key which the algorithm uses for encryption that should be kept secret. That should be kept secret. So and it is easy to implement. Okay, implementation of the algorithm should be very easy. So algorithm should be difficult to break. Okay, so because the process should be such that, see, now you just see, now suppose consider a plain text is there. Okay, so you have generated a ciphertext out of it. So by looking at the ciphertext, so the relation between plain text and ciphertext, it should be so complex that even though you know plain text and ciphertext, it should be very difficult to derive the key out of it. Derive the key out of it. Are you getting my point? Suppose you have a plain text. Okay, suppose the attacker is having plain text and the corresponding ciphertext. He knows that, so this is the plain text and this is the corresponding ciphertext. Though he has both the things, but still it should be, it should not be possible for the attacker to derive the key out of it. Okay, and the number of keys should be very large because always what happens, more, suppose you have, assume that you have 8-bit key. Okay, 8-bit key means if at all attacker does a brute force attack, so then how many combinations he can try? So 2 raised to 8, 256, right? So the number of combinations will be less. So that is why, so as the size of the key increases, so then it becomes more difficult for the attacker to try all possibilities. Okay, so the secret key should be very hard to derive from the intercepted message. Okay, so you see this, even if large number of plain text and the corresponding ciphertext are known to the attacker, see, suppose hundreds of plain text and the corresponding ciphertext are available to the attacker. Okay, but still, it should be very difficult or impossible for the attacker to derive secret key out of it. So though the plain text is converted into ciphertext using a particular key, but still with the knowledge of plain text and ciphertext, so it should be impossible for the attacker to derive key out of it. Okay, Is it clear? So we'll stop it now because the session is getting close. So in the next class, we will start with this DES and AES. Any doubts so far? Any doubts?
No, sir.
Yeah. So Ankit, so
Yes.
what others? Others are not responding. Hmm? Hello? What about others?
No doubt, sir.
No doubts? Okay.
No,
No
sir.
doubts.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, so in the next class, I think Monday and Tuesday it may not be possible because I have some online workshop to attend. It may not be possible. So Wednesday, I think I will be able to continue with this, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Right?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, tell me.
Sir, actually, some groups had today this their IOPV presentation.
Oh, sorry.
So
Okay.
where
Okay.
this video will be available, sir? Today's class.
I will send it to Vadvi sir, and I think I will ask him to put it in his classroom, Google Classroom.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay, yes, right. Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Right, okay,
Thank you, sir.
okay, fine.